For anybody at the bottom of your screen, you might see the CC button. You can click that and see the live transcripts in case that's helpful. So let's see, I think, Lynn, are you ready with your presentation tonight?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so we put this together. Merrill Harrison with the fire department should be joining us shortly. And he's going to be here for any questions that we have. So if you have a question, just make sure that you let Jackie know. I'm only seeing just a few people on my screen, so I won't be able to know if you have a question. So yeah, let Jackie know, or raise your hand or whatever. Make wild gyrations.
Mhm.
And we'll stop, and then maybe Merrill can answer a question if he's here. He should be here anytime. So here we go. Okay, so
it sounds like Tim was able to get unmuted. Tim.
Oh, okay.
I hear some feedback coming out there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you, Tim, so Lynn can go on with that presentation.
Okay, and I think Erica is also unmuted.
Oh, whoops, am I supposed to mute myself?
Well, if everyone can stay muted, then we don't have to have any background noises show up when we don't want them. So it's important to create the defensible space around your home. And most of us don't have this huge acreage. So if we look at zone 1 and zone 2, the zone 1 is you remove combustible and chimney. And then zone 2, you place, oh dear, my internet connection's unstable. That's not good. Zone 2, place wood piles at least 30 feet from the building and store the wood in a vegetation-free zone, such as a graveled area. And then if you have more, zone 2 over here too. Oh, there's more. Anyway, the next one has more information. Okay. Okay, so, okay, I guess it didn't. Sorry about this, I didn't practice. Okay, so also zone 1, eliminate all combustible materials within 30 feet of the home. And zone 2, place wood piles at least 30 feet from the building and store the wood in a vegetation-free zone, such as a graveled area. I guess I already read that one. Prune and remove dead and dying branches from individual and well-spaced clumps of trees and shrubs. So in other words, just make it as clean as you can and keep everything that you can away from the house. And then there's a plant list. I've got some pictures of them on another one, but this is important. When you're planting plants around your house, it's best not to have flammable plants. And when you're living in a wildfire hazard zone, it's recommended these plants not be used within 30 feet of any structures, fenced outbuildings or decks. It's not inclusive. So the trees, acacia, arborvitae, cedar, cypress, Douglas fir, which we have a lot of, fir, hemlock, juniper, pine, sequoia, spruce, and yew. Those are all trees that are highly flammable. And shrubs, blackberries, bitterbrush, juniper, laurel, sumac, manzanita, Oregon grape, rosemary, sagebrush, Scotch broom, scrub oak, and wild lilac. And then the grasses. Oh, Erica, you have a question? You need to unmute.
Yeah. So is redwood one of the trees that's highly flammable?
I don't see it on this list, but we do have on the next slides, we have some pictures of them and you know, the names of them. So we'll look for that one. Okay.
Okay.
I can say that redwood is kind of known for being somewhat fireproof.
Oh, good.
Okay.
There are no
I have a
fireproof.
bunch around my apartment, so
Redwoods
Oh, good.
tend to
it's
really,
right next to like this dry grassy field that caught fire last summer, and so I'm like paranoid about it.
Well, it's a good question. And they say there are no fireproof plants, but some are more fire resistant than
Yeah.
others. Fire-resistant plants have the following characteristics: are less flammable and likely to ignite in a wildfire, are low-growing or a small species, easy to maintain and prune, have an open, loose branching pattern, burn less intensely when ignited and spread the fire slower, have high moisture content, succulent plants, have stems or leaves that are not resinous, oily, or waxy, have less accumulated debris and fewer dead branches, are drought resistant, requiring less irrigation. So we have here, highly flammable plant list, arborvitae. So this is good because you can recognize some of the things if you don't know the names of them. Cedar, different types of cedar, deodar, Atlas weeping blue of Lebanon, cypress, weeping Nootka cypress, Arizona cypress, Italian tiny tower, gold crest, Douglas fir, fir grand, lowland fir, and Spanish fir. And these are all highly flammable. Weeping hemlock, western hemlock, incense cedar, juniper, golden pfeiffer, juniper blue haven, juniper arcadia, Himalayan pine, white blue, Austrian black, bristlecone pine, lupine, sequoia, weeping. That's an interesting tree, isn't it? And coastal redwood. Trees, Colorado spruce, yew, Irish, English spreading, and pampas grass. And then we go to shrubs, blackberries, Scotch broom, a lot of that around here, wild lilac, lavender, manzanita, Oregon grape, rosemary, sage. And
When
so
it starts burning, it smells really good.
yeah, but we don't want it around the house. Okay, so in creating defensible space around your home, ways to reduce the risk of wildfire in residential areas, cleaning and fixing places on houses where burning embers could fall and start fires, clearing flammable materials that are next to houses up to 5 feet away, preventing ground fires from climbing up into shrubs and trees by reducing ladder fuels, spacing shrubs and trees far enough apart so fire can't travel through tree and shrub tops, replacing flammable decks, fencing, and siding with non-flammable materials or less flammable materials, ensuring that fire trucks are able to easily turn around at the ends of dead-end streets and driveway, providing water sources for fire use in undeveloped areas, clean roof gutters, making sure there are no flammable materials remaining, change vent screens from 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. Learn your designated areas, schools are one, which can be used as last ditch safety zones for people who don't evacuate in time. Does anyone have questions about that? Okay. And then we're all learning about the evacuation levels. And we have level
I had a
1.
question. Sorry, Lynn, I
Sure.
was on mute. Can you go? I had a question on the last one.
Okay.
I didn't know what vents they're talking about and why a vent screen would, the size of a vent screen would matter.
Well, from what I understand, the vent screens are the screens that allow air to flow like underneath your house and in the attic areas. And the screen size, if you have a 1/4 inch screen, it allows the embers to get in much easier than having a smaller screen size.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And then our levels, we have level 1, 2, and 3. And so when level, if they were to say, be ready level 1, which we heard a lot with the wildfires that we had when we had the horrible fires and it looked like Armageddon here. And they were telling us the different levels that we needed to worry. And I had my go bag on my bed. I was ready no matter what. But level 1, be ready, is you want to pack your valuables and include important documents such as passports, birth certificates, insurance information, medications, and medical equipment. Put your emergency supply kit in your vehicle. Back your car into the driveway with vehicle loaded. Carry your car keys with you. Monitor the situation. Don't wait for an evacuation order if you feel threatened. Don't, if it says level 1, be ready, and you want to go right now, go. You don't have to wait. Locate your pets and keep them nearby. Prepare large animals for transport and consider moving them to safe location early. And check on neighbors and make sure they're preparing to leave. For level 2, there's a significant danger to your area. You should either leave the area now or be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. Level 2, be set. Don't wait to be ordered by authorities to leave. Evacuating the affected area early helps responders keep roads clear of congestion. You may not receive another notice. In a fast-moving emergency, it's important that you do not hesitate to evacuate if you feel unsafe. Monitor the news. Follow Lane County Sheriff's Office, and your local fire department's social media pages, as well as local television and radio news broadcasts. And then people who need help or more time to evacuate should evacuate at level 1 or level 2. This includes assisted living centers, people with disabilities, people needing help with small children, people with medical conditions, and people with large animals. And then level 3, go now. That's pretty obvious. Leave immediately. Danger is current or imminent in your area. Evacuate. Information will be provided regarding where you can go to get information, resources, and support. Do not stop to gather items or make efforts to protect your home. Follow the directions of law enforcement and emergency personnel. Take your pets with you. And level 3, go now is the last notice you'll receive. If you choose to ignore the evacuation notice, emergency personnel may not be able to assist you later. Once you leave, do not return to your home until officials determine it's safe. Notification that it is safe to return home will be given as soon as possible, considering safety and accessibility. Does anyone have questions about that? And we also have evacuation zones that we'll be talking about here pretty quick. Okay, the first evacuation zone is for Bethel.
Oh, real quick, Lynn, we have Jolene has a question.
Okay.
Hi, sorry. So I was just trying to recall, were we on a level 1 evacuation notice in River Road with the fires, like with the Mackenzie, the Blue River fire? Does anyone know?
I don't think River Road was, but I do believe it was really close. It was at least a level 2. But level 1, I think, was the areas that when the fire was getting closer to them. And I don't think River Road actually had the fire right on the edge of River Road.
Don't believe it made it out here. I think it was out in Springfield was the closest. of
Yeah.
the-
Springfield, okay.
I think the Thurston area got to level 2 one day, and the rest of the Main Street, that area got to level 3 for a couple of weeks, but that's about it for our area.
Mhm.
I was following closely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I had the go bag on my bed, as I said. I was ready.
Yeah.
So this is Bethel, and we have 5 zones in Bethel. It's a large area. And I live in 15. And because it's such a large area, we have 5 zones. We've decided to do zone park events so people can learn what zone they're in. And so we've designated a park for each zone. And we're going to be doing events all summer long in our parks. So that's the Bethel zones, 9, 10, 11, 15, and 16. Okay. The Santa Clara zones are 13 and 20. And you can see the streets a little bit better here. I enlarged it for you guys. There's Irvington Drive, Hyacinth, Irving Road. River Loop 2 is over here in 20, River Loop 1.
Looks pretty simple. It's north of Beltline, south of Beacon, and split down the middle by River Road. So
yeah,
13 and 20. Yeah.
Yep. So you got to memorize that, people in Santa Clara.
And I'm in 20.
Okay, and then River Road are zones 14 and 22. And we have 14 has Maxwell Road up here, and 22, I don't see a road. It's obvious, but there's a
think
skid.
it's
Looks like, I
split.
think that's 8th Street or 6th Street. Yeah, 6th Street.
Yeah, and I think it's split right about Park Street. South of Park is
Mhm.
zone 22. I believe that's the cutoff.
Okay. Okay, so everybody got that? There's quite a few River Road people here. Okay, so who's going to save you? Who can you rely on to help you after a disaster? Who will provide you with food, water, shelter, and medical care? You might be surprised by the answer. You and your neighbors. And this is a quote from Living on Shaky Ground, which is what we're living on. Okay, we have some programs that, that our neighborhood organizations can help you with. One of them is Map Your Neighborhood. And you can learn 9 steps to take immediately following a disaster to secure your home and protect your neighborhood. These are booklets that we have. Actually, we don't have them yet. They're making them right now. And do you know, Ed, if they've got them ready yet?
I've heard it's going to be the fall of 2022.
Okay, so we will have a whole bunch of booklets at that point. I think they were made, weren't they made in Portland before, or Seattle, or the other ones, and they're making more Oregon ones? Anyway, so
they were made in Washington State before.
Washington, that's right. Yeah. So we'll be getting ours that are supposedly more Oregonian. And it identifies the skills and equipment each neighbor has. And you can do this for your own neighborhood just on your own if you want to put together. What I did was I did a neighborhood watch, and we just went on the east side was one captain, and the west side was the other one. And we just walked the neighbors and got all their information so that we could have a phone list, and people could alert each other if there was a problem. And then we also could help each other if we had elderly people on the street. But you can go through and list skills that that different neighbors have, like if you have a nurse on your street, or carpenters, or somebody has a chainsaw that could cut down some wood if it fell across the street. And talk to your neighbors. Just get to know your neighbors is pretty much the key here. And working together as a team to evaluate your neighborhood. So does anyone have a neighborhood watch in their area? Oh, just me, huh?
This is Megan from the Whitaker, and I could just share that I have been supporting people, training people to do Map Your Neighborhood, and I've done it several times with my neighbors. And so if anybody would like more information about how to do that, I'm happy to help you.
Wonderful. You want to put your contact information in the chat so people can write that down?
Yep, sure, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Charles, you have your hand up.
Oh, yes. Well, I've reported on it a number of times that have started with my neighbors on Norman Avenue. Yes.
Right here.
And I heard of another one a couple of blocks over, a group that meets periodically around an outdoor fire pit. They just get together in the evening and talk, and that's how they do it. I think it's so nice if people can be kind of organic and allow the personality of their area to kind of dictate how they want to do that. It really is about meeting each other and just having a conversation regularly about how they can improve their preparedness.
Yes.
It's great.
Does anyone else have a question before I move on to the next slide? Okay. So during an emergency or natural disaster, first responders may not be able to assist our neighborhoods right away. You and your neighbors may become your own first responders. And I forgot to mention, I just got trained as a CERT, so I know how to do all kinds of interesting things. Boy, was it ever a good training. Ed was there. And yeah, we went into a building and had to find people, and learned how to use a fire extinguisher. It was really cool. And so this is a checklist for starting a neighborhood watch program. This is the one that I put together for my neighborhood. And the planning committee was me. So you don't have to have a big committee. You can just do it yourself. My internet connection is unstable. Are you hearing me?
Yes, now we are.
Okay. Okay, so does anyone want me to read through this whole thing? No. No.
No.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
How it would apply to fire preparedness?
This is just, it applies because we all want to know our neighbors. If we have a neighbor that is going to need some extra help, it's important with fire preparedness that we are aware of our neighborhood. And you know, obviously we want to take care of our own family first, but then reach out. And this
I have an idea as well on that. If you're keeping an eye out on your street, even not in a wildfire sense, but maybe it's a kitchen fire that breaks out in your neighbor's house across the street. If you're kind of keeping an eye on what's going on, or a garage fire or something, you'd be able to alert your neighbors and call the fire department right away if you're just aware of what's happening around you. So just being aware of what's going on.
Do we have Merrill here yet?
Yes, he is here.
Oh, good. Merrill, if you want to chime in now and talk about okay, this is a CERT, the CERT information. Is anyone interested in becoming a CERT or finding out more about them? Okay, it looks like we do have somebody interested in that. This is, you learn disaster fire suppression, which is what I was just talking about. Basic first aid and bleeding control, light search and rescue, and disaster psychology and team organization. So CERTs are basically the first responders until the actual first responders arrive. So it may be a while before they can get across the whole city. So it's important to have CERTs all through the neighborhoods so that way they can help organize the teams of people to keep us safe. So does anyone have a question about CERTs before we move on?
Lynn, just a question. Are
Sure.
you going to make this PowerPoint available?
I can. I've got a PDF of it. Well, I think we're recording it here.
I just meant.
Oh, just to send it? Yeah, I can send it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we can definitely send this out with the recording.
Yeah. And then these are all the different sites for creating the emergency family plan. Here's the wildfires and defensible space, a bunch of links here, knowing your evacuation zone. And I've got that also. If anyone needs to go to it, it's very easy. You just click on the link, put in your address, and it goes right to the zone that you're in. So it's very easy to find. And then here's Neighborhood Watch and Map Your Neighborhood information. And then these were links that former Fire Chief Randy Groves and the city councilor gave to me to include. So there's some really good links in here as well. And we'll be making this available to everybody. And then also our emergency numbers and alerting tools. So that's my presentation. So now we can go to, there's Merrill. Hi, Merrill. Okay, so now we can talk about wildfire.
Everybody, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
So I've got to say, Lynn, I should never follow you when you give a presentation. You're very good and your presentation was fantastic. So thank you for that. Kudos for that. That's absolutely wonderful presentation and job well done. So just to kind of reiterate, what I kind of hope to do is just to kind of reiterate and kind of enforce some of the things that Lynn talked about. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody may have. Really, the key to defensible space or emergency preparedness is you have to remember that it really starts at your front door, right? It starts at your home and then extends out, much like the defensible space zones. And like we spoke about, is it includes your entire neighborhood. I've heard mention of people, mentioning reaching out to your neighbors and getting to know your neighborhood. Years and years ago, that was a common occurrence, and it seems like it's unfortunately gotten less likely to occur. But in emergency preparedness and in any type of planning for a neighborhood, it's amazing the benefits that you'll get from getting to know your neighborhood, working on defensible space projects as a group, as a team. You can accomplish so much more than if you were doing it, by yourself. There's been multiple neighborhoods that I've dealt with that literally will go home to home, and they'll work together as a group to create defensible space for people within their neighborhood. And you learn to identify people who may need additional help, right? Whether that be for doing the actual work for defensible space, or in the event of an evacuation, they may be mobility limited. They may not have a running car. There may be circumstances that nobody may be aware of that you become familiar with by simply, getting to know your neighbor. I'm reminded the snowstorm we had, what was it, a couple of years ago, where it really kind of shut down our cities for a few days. Some of our call takers at the city took phone calls from residents 2-3 days into the storm, and they were asking for when resources could potentially reach them, and the question was asked was, have you contacted your neighbors for help? Because like you had stated, oftentimes in the event of a large emergency resources are tapped and may be limited or unavailable to you for a duration of time. And so these folks were asking for help. And when asked if they had reached out to their neighbors, the majority of them said no. And remarkably, these folks set really without help or any ability to help, and they didn't know their neighbors. And yet there were other groups, other neighborhoods who had banded together and removed snow and removed debris. And it was amazing to see the benefits that came out of simply knowing your neighbor. So the neighborhood preparedness really covers such a wide range of emergencies. Evacuation is all encompassing, whether it be an earthquake, whether it be a fire, whether it be any type of an emergency in your neighborhood that you need to evacuate. So getting to know your neighbors is highly recommended, and working together as a group for your common goal really benefits the entire neighborhood as a whole. Let's see, where else did I want to go with that? Defensible space. Yes.
Oh.
Let's see, there's a question there.
Oh, hi. Yes, I hope I'm not interrupting your flow, but one of the motivations I had in wanting you to come to speak with us tonight is it was kind of sparked, if you will, I hate to use that word, by a quote from Deputy Chief Heppel about 1.5 years ago, I guess, on one of the videos that was made after the big fire in 2020. Yeah. And he made, I thought, a great point. If the fire had started in Dexter, and given the winds that we were dealing with, it could very easily have been a fire in Eugene. And that one of the things I appreciated was that he basically said, even people who are living in the lower land areas of Eugene, such as us. We hear a lot about the South Hills being at
Sure.
risk, but with the flammability of our homes and that there is fire fuel around, we saw those plants, gosh, they're everywhere, even though it feels like this is a suburban area that isn't as much at risk. But we've witnessed increasing amounts of urban and suburban fires. Can you speak at all to that? I kind of, having survived the Paradise Fire, I want people in the areas like where I live to not think of themselves as immune to that risk. And I wondered if you could speak to that.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's an excellent question and a great point. So when it comes to defensible space, a great way to think about it is literally like a campfire. Any type of small tinder style fuel or plant in and around your home is much like the tinder that you would begin to start a campfire with. The larger fuels or larger trees or brush, the larger the fuel, the longer it's going to take to start to burn. So thinking about defensible space in those zones, right? And they talk about removing, needles, for example, from your roof, from your, areas where sparks, or in an active wildfire, they'll have sparks and embers that can travel for miles ahead, and they'll create what they call spot fires. And those embers or sparks can certainly travel into our urban areas. And so eliminating small fuel opportunities for that fire to ignite in or around your home is really crucial. Having a fire store next to your home is going to be much less advantageous for you if a fire starts in some low-lying fuel 100 yards from your home. I oftentimes recommend that if people can take an opportunity just to kind of learn about fire behavior, because it will help you understand kind of how fire will move. There's in some instances, if we have a fire in low-lying grass, we're not going to necessarily try to extinguish it if it can quickly burn and eliminate the fuel. Once the fuel package is eliminated, there's not enough heat that's typically generated to ignite larger fuel loads that can progress into, again, larger and larger fuel loads. That's why you hear people talk about, limbing certain styles of trees and stuff up 6 feet. Because some of our trees, and I heard us mention redwoods, some of our healthy green trees are very hardy, and they're a larger fuel. Not to say that they're somewhat fire resistant. Any fuel will burn, but a larger tree, much like a larger lump or a larger log on a fire, is going to take substantial heat or flame exposure to get it to continue to burn, or to get it to actually ignite and sustain combustion. So if, for example, you're in your defensible space preparation, if you have some low-lying fuels out further, that may not be a concern for you necessarily if your ladder fuels. And does everybody understand the concept of ladder fuels? Laddering fuels basically is an avenue for fire that may start on the ground at ground level to ladder or climb vertically up other fuels or heavier fuels. For example, things we want to avoid are low-lying fuels that allow that fire to move into a little larger fuel, say tree limbs and tree branches that are low-lying to the ground. And then from there, it moves vertically up the tree, creating more heat, more fire as it goes. And then the tree itself and the larger fuel becomes involved, thus creating more heat, more opportunity for surrounding fuels to ignite. Does that make sense to everybody? What the ladder fuel process kind of sounds like and feels like? So, so with that, again, everybody's defensible space project will look a little different, just like their evacuation may look a little different than their neighbors. You know, your defensible space and how your prescription for that for your home is going to be specific to your home. You know, simple things like removing fuel or providing space. Space is an amazing barrier, even at a smaller amount, when it comes to not allowing fire to travel from fuel to fuel. If you have space between vegetation and your home, it's amazing how much protection that'll provide you. If you don't have overhanging limbs and branches over your home, it's amazing how much protection that'll provide you. Removing the little opportunities for the fire to occur in and close to your home. Make sure, like you mentioned, make sure wood piles are in proper locations. Make sure that your vents in your home won't allow those embers to fly into it or to become or to gain access to your home is incredibly important. Removing small fuels from you know, from your roof and from your gutters, things like that. Those are all things that are going to provide an immense amount of protection for you. And optimally too, defensible space is meant to be a place where emergency crews can actually provide this defensible space. They could stage at different areas and have anchor points for wildfire suppression. Does all that, am I answering the question there with defensible space? For example, I am not a fan of arborvitae at all. Nothing personal, it's just they look like Roman candles when they light off. It's amazing how quick arborvitae will burn. It's amazing. I wouldn't have arborvitae anywhere near my home, personally, right? There's multiple options for different types of fuels. And one thing to remember too is defensible space doesn't necessarily mean removal of all fuels, right? A healthy green environment is very fire resistant. If you, again, the secret is not allowing fire to start to live and to generate heat and start to consume more fuel. If it can burn a small area of low-lying grass and be done, there are advantages to that. That's why oftentimes during wildland suppression activities, you'll see where crews will allow a certain area to burn because black doesn't burn again, burned area doesn't burn again, and it provides a safe spot. And if there's a low-lying, fast-burning fuel, they'll let it burn that distance and then manage it at a different point. The key with your homes, though, is really just a few little odds and ends. I mean, if you think about it as a campfire type of a mindset, it sometimes helps you kind of pick the fuels that you need to potentially eliminate or to just simply manage. In talking about defensible space, oftentimes we're asked the question, well, if we, defensible space it takes away our beauty. It takes away the reason that we, moved to this area. It takes away all the trees that we love. And defensible space isn't all about removal of fuels. It's essentially just about management. I mean, I oftentimes think it's really funny. When I think of defensible space, I'm reminded of myself as a teenager and my father telling me to get a haircut, right? He was telling me to get defensible space because he didn't want me to remove all the fuel. He just wanted it managed. So it was easier maintained. It was easier, right? And it's that simple. You want to give your home and your residence a little haircut, right? Trim it up, make it look a little better. And oftentimes people find that after that's done, they're actually really quite impressed at how good their how good their yard and their area look. Yes, Lynn.
Well, I just have a question. It's a little bit different, a little change of subject here, but in terms of the evacuation zones,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how, if you were to call out evacuation zone 15, would you say use a certain road? Or, I mean, how would that work? Because, you know, we don't want to have several zones called at the same time and they're all on the same road. Or should we try to figure out different, I mean, how does it all work if you were to call a zone?
So one of the unfortunate things about emergencies is you could never plan them exactly, right? So like you had talked earlier, get familiar with your neighborhood and different accesses out. Remembering that if there is that evacuation order as you're trying to leave, emergency crews may be trying to come in. So know of multiple access points or egress points for your neighborhood. And like you'd mentioned before too, you don't have to wait until they actually call for the level 3, let's go. If you feel threatened at any point prior to that, there's nothing wrong with leaving the area. And we oftentimes, well, and that's what they found out in certain areas of the Holiday Farm fire. By the time things happened so quickly that by the time people got the evacuation order, it was now, and it evolved so quickly. They went through ready, set, go at just a rapid rate. So again, just being familiar with those access roads in and out, not being afraid to leave earlier rather than later. And, you know, remembering the essentials. I often go with the 7 Ps when it talks about things we should pack. I mean, you know, you have to remember to pack your people, right? Make sure that they're ready to go. So that means you may have to account for, you know, maybe somebody in your home or in your, you know, family who may need, you know, maybe, you know, again, mobility limited. I mean, you know, this type of evacuation is just, it's like a home evacuation drill for a house fire, just much larger, right? So you have to account for those who may need some additional help, you know, seniors, people with, you know, different types of mobility issues. So people, pets, you know, don't forget your personal computer. And when it comes to pets, I mean, pets means your food, their, you know, any type of medications they may have, you know, crates, I mean, leashes. And so there's just so much to think about. I mean, me, if I have to evacuate, I know I've got 4 bulldogs that I need to take with me. And that's a chore just in itself to plan for them. I mean, they come with their own medication kits, their own, right? And so, you know, people with horses and things like that need to plan for that type of, for that event in case that happens. You know, so people, pets, your personal computer, right? I mean, ways to communicate, you know, it could have important documents on it, things that you may need. Don't forget your prescriptions, right? Prescriptions are going to be important for pets, for people. Let's see what else. Papers, important papers. I mean, you know, it could be passports, it could be deeds, titles, things like that. Don't forget to bring that stuff. Photos, you know, important memoirs. Now, we don't want to pack up a U-Haul and move out, right? But you want to keep this stuff fairly mobile and fairly limited to just what's extremely important. And then by all means, don't forget your phone. It's funny, we've seen on occasion people leave, and the most important thing to us on a day-to-day basis, our phone. People forget that.
And a charger.
And a charger. Thank you. Yes, right. Yes, Jackie, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'll add to all these items that you're saying not to forget. We want to plan ahead on those items and not be coming up with what our list is in the midst of the evacuation order. We want to, what my husband and I did, we created a list of, if we only have 15 minutes to go, these are the important items we're going to grab, so that you're not walking around your house trying to figure out where all of those items are at that very moment. You can at least go back and reference your list and say, hey, do I have everything in the time that's allotted? So thinking ahead to what those items might be and writing them down is really important.
That's excellent. And don't be afraid to practice it, to go through it mentally. I mean, I go over this time and time again when we teach, exit drills in the home as part of just your general home fire safety. And, I'm oftentimes, I tell the story quite often. We'll go to schools and I'll talk to, students in a school, and I'll ask them, do you guys know how to get out of the classroom, in case of a fire? And they're just spot on. I mean, they're like, yep, we stand up and I turn to the left and I travel with my friend Benny and we walk up to the front of the teacher, and they describe the poster on the teacher's desk, and they turn left, and they describe the door they go through and the little dip in the lawn, and they know it just literally step by step, and they talk themselves through it because they've done it so many times. It's muscle memory. And yet I ask them, well, that's fantastic. How do you guys get out of your home during a fire? And they go, I don't know, because they don't practice it and they don't think about it. And so something like this, and especially whenever we have an emergency situation and we're scared, we're nervous, we're uncertain of what's coming, we tend not to think as well, right? I mean, that's just human nature. So being able to resort back to, muscle memory and practicing, and you bring up a great point. I mean, even if it's as simple as just talking through or reviewing your pack list or reviewing what you do, what does ready mean to us? What does set mean to us? What does go mean to us? What are the stuff we would take? Do we need to maybe put it in a little different location? I mean, do we need to keep things spread from room to room to room to room to room, or do we have an area where we may keep this stuff? And just, as you practice it, on an annual basis, things like that, it becomes much more familiar to you. And in the event of an emergency, it goes much better for you. So develop the muscle memory. I mean, talk, and that's, one of the benefits of, neighborhood associations and, frequent meets. I mean, meet up and talk about the stuff. I mean, walk through the scenario, help your neighbor put theirs together. And the more you talk about it, the more you become familiar with it, the more you feel comfortable with it. And in the event, and I'm a firm believer, if you're prepared, things won't happen to you. Cross your fingers, right? It's like if you have a jack, you won't have a flat, hopefully. Right? It's when you're not prepared that things go horribly wrong. And so take the time just to prepare and ask the weird questions. I mean, what do we do? I mean, do I want to have a little, extra water in my car? Do I want to carry a fire extinguisher in my car? I mean, talk through those different situations and different circumstances and just become familiar with it, become comfortable with it. And the more you talk about it, the more comfortable and confident you'll become in what your options are.
Merrill, Peter has his hand up here and it's already 7:30, so might be a good idea to find out what he wants.
Peter, yeah, sorry about the wait.
Yeah, Merrill, thank you so much for coming. This is great information. I had a follow-up question about evacuation. I know that in different circumstances, you can have sort of different outcomes. And one of the problems potentially with evacuation is that you can get traffic jams, or if the fire is moving in a certain direction, maybe you have to reconsider which direction to go, or you don't know which direction to go.
Right. No, so that's a good point, and it brings up another point that I wanted to make. Emergency alerts, emergency communication, City of Eugene's emergency management website, Lane County emergency management web, they've got all these links to emergency communications for folks. And so if there's changes, it's going to try to be communicated via the communication links, right? It could be via radio, which is, again, if you're in that process, make sure you've got your communication devices with you, right? A car radio is going to be key, computer may be key, phone's going to be key, right? And follow your local social media pages. Social media pages are huge for distributing information quickly and efficiently. I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe all of a sudden, River Road and, all of a sudden there's a large accident due to a mass evacuation, and you need to go a different way. So ensuring you've got that communication open to you is really going to be key. With that, before I forget, that on our website, that evacuation map is interactive. If you haven't been to the website and actually clicked on the map, go there. It pulls it up. It talks about the evacuation points and where to go. I mean, you've got the fairgrounds, Valley River Center, Bob Kiefer, and there was, and our website, Eugene Springfield Fire's website, has just a huge amount of resources we've put together for, yes, perfect. Has a huge amount of resources put together for all stuff wildfire and evacuation preparedness, right? It's got defensible space options. It's got local links, county, state, federal. It's got just huge amounts of self-help resources for everybody to do. And before I forget, again, sorry, I've got a lot of things coming out of my head right now. I want to highly recommend OSFM, the Office of State Fire Marshal, is hosting webinars upcoming for wildfire preparedness. The first one was this evening, and it was on how to review your insurance coverage and be prepared for disasters. But the upcoming ones, and I did send a link to, I believe, Lynn and them, but if anybody needs a link, again, please feel free to reach out. It's free of charge. They do fantastic webinars. The next one is home ignition, how homes really ignite during a wildfire. It's an hour-long event. It's Thursday, May 12th at 6 o'clock, completely free. The one after that is Be Ready, Be Set, Go, right? It's talking about our evacuation, the Oregon evacuation levels. That's Thursday, May 19th at 12 noon, again, completely free. And the last one of the series is, yes, fire-resistant plants are a real thing. What a great one, right? Fire-resistant plants. Keep the beauty, but fire-resistant. Tuesday, May 24th, 12 noon, and again, all free. So I got to put in a giant plug for those guys. They're fantastic partners with us. If any of you have seen the Believe campaign that's out there with Bigfoot, believe in fire safety, that's all from them. And they're just a fantastic contributor to educational material for the public. So now I'll take more questions. I got all that out. Yeah.
Meryl, could I, that was a great bonus. That was more information than I could have imagined, but I actually wanted to ask a specific question about evacuations. And I've heard people talk about circumstances in which it may be safer to shelter in a safe place, an open area like a concrete parking lot or a big grass golf course or something like that, where there's just not very much that's burnable around you. And I wondered, is that something that you endorse, and under what circumstances would you make a choice to shelter in place as opposed to try to evacuate?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's exceptionally hard to answer. Certainly, the unfortunate thing is emergencies, they're ever evolving, and they never go exactly the way we have planned. You bring up good points. All of our evacuation meet locations are all locations designed after that, right? There's the fairgrounds, there's Valley River Center, there's Bob Kiefer, right? It's all large areas where large groups of people can gather, where there's limited fuel amounts, right? Probably the best thing I can say is, in situations like that, it's certainly possible. I mean, we have occupancies all across the city that in case of fire emergency, we shelter them in place based on fire protection systems that are in the building. Likewise, that may occur during an evacuation. Many things may occur during an evacuation or during an emergency. The thing that I would recommend the most is, again, keeping your lines of communication open, because we can all plan for what we think can happen, and ultimately it could all change. And really keeping the lines of communication open as much as possible, staying in groups, working together, that's going to really ensure that if a change like that does occur, that it's able to be communicated to you and anybody you're with. So I wish I could answer that more specifically, but there's just so many variables that go into something like that. That's a tough one to answer.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Jolene, I see a hand.
Hi, thank you. I can even start my video. So thanks so much for all this information. I know we're out of time, or I'm just going to do a time check. Are we still going? Is that true? Jackie?
I'll go as long as you need me.
I think, Meryl, yeah, if you have
Okay.
a couple minutes, we might as well get the questions in while we have you.
Yeah.
Well, I may
Go
be
for it.
a little late, or maybe to the game, or not paying close attention, but I live in River Road, and when you were asking about evacuation routes and checking with the radio, I guess I wonder, is that going to be real time? Like if I head out River Road and it's like, oh gosh, there's been a huge crash and all these lights are flashing, where do I go? Do I switch the radio on and they'll say, zone 22, we now want you to evacuate out Northwest Expressway? I mean, I just wonder, or am I going to be running around like a chicken with my head cut off, or how much guidance will we get?
Well, so that's another great question. Again, part of the hard thing is emergencies are so hard to dictate. I would assume probably the quickest updates are going to come via the communication links, the emergency links that or apps you can download through the emergency management pages, right? Those are going to be instant updates, much like a text message or something like that would come in. It's hard to say. Again, it goes back to in the event of emergency, there's no problem in leaving early. If you feel unsafe, or if you feel, like now's the time to go, there's no problem in leaving the area sooner rather than later. Most of the area out in that end of town, roads are wide, roads are good. There's less of, I have evacuation concerns across both cities, right? I mean, I worry about people getting out anywhere. I think of the worst possible situations, and that's just where I go. But one thing that that is a benefit to you guys in the area you live in is typically road width, road size, and access to them. It's a little different in other areas that we have within the cities. Again, it's extremely tough to answer. The part of the purpose for breaking areas down into sections and giving them specific routes to go is it does help to eliminate the confusion. And if you can get people going specific ways, it optimizes the evacuation process as a whole. And so it's just, again, the communication is going to be key. Working as a group, it's unfortunate there's oftentimes things with an emergency we just can't answer for sure because we don't know. I mean, we can optimally plan for the worst and hope for the best, and then have enough information with us that we've learned about that if we need to adapt in a hurry, we can do it. Hopefully that helps to answer that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Good questions, put me on the spot. What else? Who else has a question? Well, while you're thinking, take the time to, if you haven't liked or follow our social media pages, follow them. I highly recommend following all emergency agency web pages or social media accounts. Like and follow them from Lane County Sheriff's Office, Eugene Police Department, Springfield Police Department, Eugene Springfield Fire. Follow all those emergency pages. They're great sources for information. Lane County or Lane Fire all that stuff is just take the time to follow those and explore the websites. I mean, for example, go to our website and look at the the self-help resource links that are there. You can print off a map of what zone 1, 2, and 3 it tells you to do, and you can work at it a little bit at your home. And there's a ton of resources out there, from NFPA to Firewise to Keep Oregon Green. All of these are just such fantastic resources for folks. I don't know a good thing to just maybe announce that you may be able to witness and see in the upcoming few weeks. And I don't know exact locations yet, but within both cities, there's 3 battalions. So that's Eugene and Springfield. All 3 battalions are going to be doing wildfire exercises. They're essentially dusting off they're dusting off their skills, and they're going to be doing live exercise where they're going to be extending hoses and doing lots of really neat stuff that may be fun to watch. As part of that, the fire marshal's office is going to be out with them, providing pamphlets and information and talking to folks and visiting with people on what they're doing, what defensible space looks like, what wildfire preparedness looks like. So I don't know the locations yet, but follow our pages and they'll announce it, because the purpose of us doing it is to get out and say hi to folks in the community. So one will be near or close to your area. Like I said, all 3 battalions are going to be doing it. So great opportunity to get out and meet folks. We do have, there will be funding coming our way for our higher risk areas, Thurston Hills, South Hills, areas like that, for defensible space, mitigation, just some upcoming projects that are going to be done through some funding coming down from Senate Bill 762. And so definitely some things happening in the area. Firewise Communities is still a great thing to look into. ODF, I think, is going to be your best resource for Firewise Communities. Anyway, yes, Randy, sorry.
Oh, thank you. It's all right. And I'm sorry I don't have the video. I was curious, taking a page from the Ukraine Territorial Defenders, have you considered or do you have the capability to employ drones to look for spot fires under these east wind conditions? You may have heard, I heard at least, that a fire in the Cal Young neighborhood was started by a dropped ember from the McKenzie fire, which was miles away. And
I'm not aware of that. Just so you know.
Yeah, they said that it burned down, and
none of the fires that we've investigated within both cities were started from the Holiday Farm fire. It may be false information.
I will, yeah, I'll check on that further off to see where. First they said it was a mysterious fire, then somebody said the house burned that day. Yeah. But in any case, the east wind fires, like the one that burned up Paradise, the high winds are up above and they can drop things down quite a ways distant, and say an unoccupied house. Also, what if a person spotted a house that was a spot fire? Where would they know where to call to report it to the fire department? And would you be on top of spot fires because of the characteristics of these east wind fires, that they can just appear at where you don't expect it at all?
Yeah, another great question. Typically, on these larger incidents like this, they'll have type of management teams in on them, and with that comes just a plethora of fire experts, and including in that is folks that are watching weather and they're projecting what this fire is going to do, and with that they can have an area that they're going to be aware of where potential spot fires or embers are going to be landing, and they can typically put out a little warning per se for that. I heard you guys talk about, again, just being your eyes open in your neighborhood, watching your neighbors' homes, watching what's occurring, watching for potential, fire debris, embers falling in and around your neighborhood. I mean, awareness is really going to come from within your neighborhood. Ultimately, you're going to be the ones who identify any problems that are going to start to occur if emergency services are in the area. And so just an awareness and a willingness to look out for your neighbors, be aware in your neighborhood is going to really, be extra vigilant in times of an emergency, and watch out for each other. As far as drones go, I've seen drones used in all aspects of the fire service. Just recently, Springfield Police Department blessed us with the use of their drones on a large apartment fire we had on Springfield's Main Street, helped us look for hotspots in the roof. So drones with thermal imaging capability are a really neat addition to the fire service. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. Great questions. It looks like Peter's got another question there.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to Randy's question. Actually, he mentioned the east wind conditions, and as I understand it, those are actually considered to be extremely rare, or at least they used to be. Yeah. And I think the last one that I'd heard of was something in like 1933. And
Peter, we can't hear you. Is Jackie?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, anyway, I was saying, I think I had heard that the last time we'd had a major east wind like that was in something like 1933. And when Randy was talking about east wind conditions, I hate to put you on the spot as a climate modeling prediction expert, but in the firefighting profession in this area, is there sort of an assumption that we will be getting more of those east wind events that are so dangerous?
Well, so another great question. I haven't heard anything personally that would indicate we're expecting that wind specific. We are expecting fire behavior. We are expecting fires to occur. We're seeing that more and more. I know specifically, as you're mentioning, the winds that affected the Holiday Farm fire were not typical by any means. That's not saying they can't occur again. And, it's something we certainly need to be aware of. Our winds in our area typically, come from the north. And, but certainly with, different weather patterns, winds do and can change. But, and that's also stuff that we, as far as our preparation and our suppression efforts, we really try to train for that type of stuff. And, on our pre-action plans, we look for ways to, mitigate those type of threats sooner rather than later. So I wish I knew more about what's projected for upcoming winds, but that's about as much expertise as I have on that.
Okay, we're at 7:50, so I think we've kept Merrill here long enough. Unless anyone has a last minute question, I think we can. Okay, B and Marv. It must be the Marv part.
You're muted.
I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just a real quick question. The last, maybe 3 years here, I've had a lot of problems with, we've got more rental houses in the area, and we've had several instances of people partying and drinking, and then on the 4th of July, it's boom, you know, they got the fireworks and everything. I was wondering, you know, this has to do with more, it's preventing a disaster or a fire, but I wondered, is there anything coming out with kind of curtailing that during some of these dry seasons, that they're going to do something in Eugene and about limiting that?
So another great
Limiting the
question.
fireworks.
The city of Eugene has enacted a ban in the South Hills. It's a progressive ban. Last year was the first year of it. I believe it's 18th South I-5, where last year they restricted fireworks, illegal fireworks, or no, they restricted fireworks in that area, but still allowed sales. This year, they won't allow sales and won't allow fireworks. And I believe that it will progress. I don't know what it's going to go to for sure. So I would hate to say where it's going to go. I know it's a topic that the Eugene City Council has looked at, and there's a lot of concern over it. And so I think they are going to make some more decisions regarding that. And in the city of Springfield, there's been discussions to the same extent, and thus far there hasn't been anything put into place in Springfield yet. So there are apps to report illegal firework use. Certainly this is another opportunity for just neighborhoods to reach out and just talk to the folks in their neighborhood. We see this a lot too with vegetation complaints. You know, neighbors will have concerns over vegetation that a neighbor next to them may have as a fire risk. And unfortunately, from our code enforcement capabilities, we don't have enforcement capabilities on private property. We can only educate, and we find that a lot of times that education piece, whether it be fireworks, whether it be helping with some defensible space, some vegetation mitigation, really can be influenced by the neighbors, and with a positive approach. I mean, knocking on somebody's door with a real negative attitude typically won't get you far, but we've had really good success. You talk about the neighborhood get-togethers, neighborhood parties, and block parties, things like that. Those are great opportunities just to talk with your neighbors about upcoming concerns. Hey, and it's from the fire risk. Fire risk is one thing too, but there's also the risk, PTSD for individuals, pets. I mean, you can talk to people about your concerns, and with renters, it's an ongoing educational process, right? Because they're ones that'll come in and out of your neighborhoods typically quicker than a homeowner. So if you just continue that reach out process and approach in a kind and nice way with genuine concern, and try to educate and inform on reasons why you as a neighborhood want to do things a certain way, we're really finding success rates are extremely high with that, and we're getting very good response. We've had literally years worth of vegetation complaints that were all of a sudden just mitigated by a simple conversation between neighbors. And so especially when it comes to emergency preparedness, I mean, the old saying, it takes a village, is absolutely true. I mean, we've all got to rely on each other. We've all got to work with each other, and we've got to depend on each other. And so really promoting that and encouraging that within neighborhoods and neighbors is going to be a great step to a success for everybody.
Thank you.
That's a perfect spot to end. And I would like to thank Meryl for coming and giving us all this great information. And I think that's it for tonight. So good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all. It was great seeing everybody.
Bye-bye.